So we are live. Hello everyone who has joined. So we can wait for 5 more minutes so that people could join in.
Couple of minutes, yeah, that works. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Oh, we have a comment.
That's hey everyone.
Hey, Dhruv. Oh, we have folks joining in. That's cool. Hey, everyone. It'd be great if you all could maybe introduce yourselves once in the chat. That'd be fantastic.
So yes, I guess we can get into the session now. So today's session is going to be all about student tech communities, how to get involved, and what are the application processes, and what you'll be doing once you get selected for a student tech community. What are the benefits, all the ins and outs of it. So to discuss all these things, we have Aditya Oberai with us. He has been doing a lot of things, like starting from Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador to a lot of things which I couldn't even keep in my mind. So he will be introducing himself to us now.
All right. Thanks a lot. Hey, everyone. I am Aditya. I've been working with various student tech communities for over about a year now. I've been involved with the Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador program, which was formerly known as Microsoft Student Partner, and I am a core team member for our developer student club at Amity University. Apart from that, I was a community intern with ProGate, with whom I did work for 5 months, from April to September. So yeah, I'm absolutely very happy to be here. Thank you so much, Girl Up She United, for having me on.
Yeah, it's great to have you with us today. That's cool. So we have a lot of questions for you today. Even before watching this, the audience can put up all your questions about or something related to student tech communities in here. So let me start with the first question. What do you think are the benefits of joining the student tech communities?
Well, student tech communities definitely. Now, that in itself is a very large, broad ecosystem in its own place. But I think the core idea behind any successful community is to help all the members upskill themselves so that they are technically more proficient. Apart from that, networking is a big focus. So that with every community, you are meeting people, you're learning from there, you're connecting with them, and you're essentially developing a network that will be mutually beneficial for all the members of the community. So those are two of the biggest pros of each community. And at the end of the day, all communities are working towards a common goal, whatever it may be. Every community may have a slightly different primary aim, but all the members are always focusing towards one goal. So it's really a nice little unit working towards one point.
That's cool. So yeah, do we get to build any technical skills as part of these student tech communities?
Yeah, definitely. So, if I talk about the program I am a part of, that's the Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador. One of the conditions for any person who joins in. So, we've got various tiers, and each of these milestones is something that each ambassador has to complete. And the first one essentially is to complete a learn path. So, even with other programs like the GitHub Campus Experts, you have to complete certain trainings so that you can actually become a qualified a technical specialist in your own place. Until you have the knowledge, you won't be able to share it and spread it and take it that experience to your community. So definitely upskilling is a huge part of these programs.
Yeah, so the next thing is you have been reciprocate, right? So did you get actually get the lifetime access to all the courses?
All right. Now our community internship was focused more around community work. So while that is one factor aside, we never really asked for lifetime access, to be honest. But yes, with the events we were involved in, if we were running events around Java, Python, HTML, JavaScript, or SQL, depending on those events, yes, we did have that access for those specific durations.
Okay, that is good. So, while applying for this Microsoft Student Partner, which is now called Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador, we have this question, right? Explain the topic to your friend. So, how do you exactly approach this question?
All right. So for this specific question, I know there are people who try various different ways. Um, some folks try to maybe talk about how they would explain a concept. Instead of that, when I applied, what I did is I picked a concept and I just actually explained it. So I remember at my time, I used linear search, I think. And what I did is first I went in with a real world example to talk about how I would actually explain that concept without and to someone without any knowledge of coding. So I took the example of a book and just turning over pages to maybe find one specific page in a book. So that was my real world example. And then I got into maybe the steps, the algorithm of that particular concept. So that was my methodology for that particular question.
All right. So, for how many years have you been this associated with Microsoft as the student partner or Learn Student Ambassador?
Just over a year now. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So the next question is, there are like so many communities and some are like really inactive, right? So how do I choose the right community to join?
Definitely, the activity in a community makes a difference. However, at least even with inactive communities, it's not always because members are totally disinterested. Sometimes I have noticed that communities get slightly inactive at certain points of time due to maybe, some of the members being busier. And this is something that happens a little more in smaller communities. In larger communities with a more diversified group, that doesn't always happen. So yes, diversified groups make a big difference, and that should be something that should look for when you're maybe trying to join a larger community. If it's a smaller community, it's something and you're going to be more involved in building it, then really your focus should be to find an aim you would like to work towards. Because with any community, if you're really sorted, if you know that this is the aim you want to work towards, whether it's small, that wouldn't affect you. You'd start by creating a small impact, and as soon as that impact reaches out, it'll help you find and reach out to more members. So a community can definitely grow like that. So that would be my thing. I mean, a diversified group and a common goal. Those are two things that are definitely very important while looking for a community to work with.
Sure. So the next question is again about Procade. When does the application of community intern at Procade open up?
All right. So right now, in fact, it is open, and I'll share the
Okay.
link after. I'll share a document with some of these links. So I'll share the link after the session, but it is open right now.
Yeah. The link for the all the tech communities will be in the chat box or in the description section in this YouTube session. So the next question is, yeah. So do you recommend a third year student to apply for the Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador program?
Absolutely. Why not? The program, even if you're in fourth year or first year, if you think you'd like to contribute to the program, you can learn from the program, then please go ahead and join in. We have a lot of members, in fact, who do join in their third year, and they do a lot of good work. So, yeah, if you want to contribute, your year shouldn't stop you.
Definitely. So yeah, this is my favorite question. So you have been like a part of so many tech communities, right? Which among them is your favorite?
I won't.
Yeah,
Okay, that's
it's
a
hard
very
to
tricky question. I think. Okay, so I think for that, what I can say is with every single community I've been involved in, there's something different that I've learned. There's always been maybe a slightly different group. With some of these communities, it's also been a lot of the same people joining in who you're working with because um, lots of people you're branching out, you're learning from different groups, so you end up finding common people in a lot of these. So I can't exactly say one favorite because it really at the end of the day, all of these different programs, their idea is the same, to help all of us upskill, and share our knowledge. So it's really one big community, all of these different programs at the end of the day. So yeah.
Alright. Yeah. So we have a question in the chat box. It is, how can I inspire my fellow students to join the community I'm building?
So for this, I think what you should do is you should start small. Start with a few members who think, even if it's with friends or your classmates or some batchmates, just start that way. Start with a small group who believe in the same ideology that you do. Share little knowledge. Try to add value for these people, and share to as many people as possible. Don't try to restrict where you're sharing, but don't try to force and pull people in. You don't have to market the community. You just start by trying to add value to people and keep doing that consistently. Once you consistently keep doing that, more and more people will join you.
So yeah, if I start a community, what can I do to build interaction among the people? So how will they exactly believe in me and what I am doing? So
All
yeah.
right. So with some of the programs that I worked with and some of a couple that I helped launch, what we did is that we did a launch event. We talked about our aims, initiatives, and we started off with our own groups, with our own batchmates, our own friends. So that first they'd learn, and once we tried to talk about what we wanted to do, I think a lot of some of these people also shared the word, spread it around. And if I mean after that, you really have to start working consistently, because if you just make one announcement, one launch event, and then you stop, then you're not adding value consistently. So you're going against your own words. You've got to stay consistent on that. Events are one way. The other maybe could be written content, technical writing, that sort of thing, blogs on what you're trying to do. Even if it's a very small project that you're working on, even if it's your first website, write a bit about it, share it. Someone's going to learn from that definitely. So just sharing consistently and consistent, that makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. So yeah, there is one more thing in the chat. Share some things with you. Which you learned from your Procade internship.
Okay, so with the ProGate internship, what we were trying to do is essentially help the organization and the platform reach out to as many students as possible, since it's a coding learning platform essentially. So, okay, with this question, would you like to know more about the activities I did or the learnings generally? I think Fazan, you could just mention that one. That'd be cool. Because I mean, I can get into both. I can talk about the activities, I can talk about what I learned about working with communities. And in fact, for that, I did write a blog as well. So I
Oh,
can share my internship experience from there as well. I'll send it over to you. So if you want to share that once, maybe that'd be cool. So if I talk about what I did in the internship, I tried to bring in various new initiatives apart from the existing activities. Some of them were built on top, but I tried to bring in ideas which could actually help impact students. So yeah, Anush mentions marketing. That's one side of it. Um, I won't say community work is totally marketing. I will say that you're trying to impact people, and yes, marketing does become an aspect for it, but that's not the entire view. So, I mean, I remember if I take the April May time, what had happened is at that point the lockdown had just started, and we didn't know whether we were going back to college, whether exams were happening. So what we did at that point of time, my team and I, we had 3 members in our intern team at that time. And what we tried to do is that we created activities specifically that would assist students in getting back to their college academics. So we ran activities on Java, Python, SQL, and command line, which are kind of topics which are taught in colleges. So we tried to create activities that revolved around these particular technologies. All of these initiatives that we ran had some stories behind it that would help students. So that was one aspect of it. Then, later on when we went on, we tried to work with another existing activity which the program had, that was the learning weekends. And what we realized is that earlier they were only college only events, but with smaller towns and cities, somehow they weren't gathering that kind of attraction because they were either very new to colleges hadn't heard about the platform, So we tried to do, for such areas, we tried to do citywide events rather than just in college specific, which would really just reach out to all of these little colleges in the cities. And after that, if someone really liked the experience, they could take it back to their colleges. So the idea there was to actually help introduce a larger group at the same time to the platform rather than a very specific college only audience who could always be impacted once someone from the college was attending. And that did work out quite well as well, because in smaller towns, in unreached regions, we did find a lot of audience who really liked the platform. Another thing that we tried was a challenge specifically for the mobile app of ProGate rather than the web platform, because we realized that at least with the audience, with the students, not everyone in Indian colleges own their own personal laptops and computers, but a majority do have their own mobile phones and smartphones particularly. So we tried to create a learning challenge which revolved specifically for the mobile phone experience rather than the web. And yes, after that, for the complete experience, because yes, of course, with the mobile phone, you can't code as much. So that could be taken, the people could come to the web whenever they had access, but they'd get the learning experience anyway. And that was a huge success. So those were some of these activities which we tried to think about, brainstorm, we tried to innovate so that we could really reach more people among the community. Because a lot of our, I mean, even ProGate's initiatives otherwise are extremely community driven. So that was a big one major idea behind our work. And otherwise, apart from that, a lot of the learnings were generally more on a personal basis about what kind of, I mean, how risk taking is a good habit, how execution is just as important as planning. One shouldn't be afraid of failure, how teamwork actually makes a big difference, because all of the initiatives we ran, while yes, all of us interns were running our own initiatives, we tried to work under common banners as well to help reach get one program to reach out to a lot more. And that made a big difference as well, because in a team, if someone wasn't as comfortable with graphics, someone else was helping out. If one wasn't as comfortable developing content, another was helping out. So really those collaborative efforts made a huge difference. And then yes, we learned about how, there were times when the work got excessive, and then you have college work coming in, because my college started online. So understanding the importance of prioritizing, importance of empathizing, a lot of these things uh, was something that we all learned a lot of this during the internship.
Right, absolutely. So, you have been talking about conducting events, right? I think you answered the question, but it would be better if you just elaborate. So, how could someone conduct an event which doesn't get much financial help from the university?
All right. So if we talk about online events, conducting an online event doesn't require as much of financial support, because we have tools right now like StreamYard where you can just connect with YouTube, or Google Meet, for example, which is now available to all Google users, all Gmail users. So we have platforms where you can have a group meet up and organize. And after that, what you really need is just to reach out to more and more people. And once you've got that done, you have your basic event set up. So then your worry essentially becomes whether your content. Then after that, I think your actual worry would become whether your content is well made, whether it's well defined as per what you want to share. So once you've got your content ready, conducting an online event is actually quite a lot more comfortable than a physical event. In physical events as well, I think once the lockdown ends and in-person events actually begin, so for those, yes, I think that's where financial help is more necessary generally. But even then, without financial help, you can actually work. So if you're working in college, you can actually speak with your college administration for maybe classrooms or lecture halls for space when there aren't classes, so that you can conduct maybe a club event or any such community event. Even if not, I know for a fact, so there are a lot of co-working spaces which do help out with events at times, especially if someone's a member. So if you know someone who's um, working with these spaces, or even otherwise, some of them really just stay in touch with community initiatives, so that helps out as well. So a network does help a lot there. Plus, if your event is grand, if it's valuable, and even if it's not grand, actually, if it's valuable, you can actually just maybe network, reach out to people, and get something done that way. Network does help a lot there.
Right, cool. So, what kind of activities can we get more participation?
What kind of activities?
Yeah,
So
in
I
online.
think for I think this actually makes a larger difference in online events. Meetups always had their own different charm. So, but in
Okay.
online events, at least, I what I personally try to do is keep the events as interactive as possible, where there's a two-way communication rather than just
Right.
one. Because right now we're at a point where we've been having online events and all for the last 6 months, and people are kind of bored of that one-way sort of a communication as well. So I really just try to keep them as interactive as possible. I think since more people are interacting, they learn a lot more. So that is one of my ways of going about it.
That's really great. So there is a question from Raj. What if people are not motivated for programming?
So in tech, there's actually a lot outside of programming as well. You know, if you're working with tech, there's technical writing. So when you talk about programming, are you talking about competitive programming? Are you talking about development? Because there's a lot in programming and coding as well. So I think it'd be better if you could tell a bit more about what you exactly mean by programming. Because if I have to talk about competitive programming, I am not a big competitive programmer either. I do not enjoy that. If I have to talk about development, however, that is something I prefer. So there's a lot to that. And then, even outside of programming, but within computer science, you have things like UI, UX design. You've got writing, of course, is a big uh, thing there as well. You've got community management. So there's a lot of activities that are there within this broad field as well. Then, even with data scientists, you've got some people who focus more on the mathematical side of it. So for development, all right. So with development, at least, I think sometimes one reason for not being motivated enough is if you have a little bit of a bad start, and maybe sometimes in the start, a mentor makes a bit of a difference. So if you have the right mentor, you can get the right encouragement. And you have to choose the resource where you're learning from very carefully, because not all resources are designed very well, keeping absolute beginners in mind. So you have to find a resource properly. And for that, you can ask for help. You can actually reach out to me later on. I think you do have my contact details, so we can always have a discussion later. And
Uh,
let's
I think
talk, and we
we
can
are,
we can do this individually as well.
yeah, for everyone, you can just drop your LinkedIn profile in the chat so that they
Or
could.
I mean, I can share mine. You just connect with me, and you can just mention in the private message with the connection that you joined. I mean, you connected from this particular event. So I'll share my LinkedIn at the end. I'll share my LinkedIn and Twitter, and both of them are open. So you can reach out to me from either of them.
So yeah, so you said you have been started technical content writing, right? So
A
what
bit,
is,
yeah.
yeah, you can tell about it.
All right. So when I talk about technical content writing, so if I'm working with certain technologies, suppose I was working earlier, I've been working a little more with Xamarin.Forms, which is essentially a cross-platform framework for .NET. So I can develop Android and iOS apps and Windows apps for using that, using .NET rather. So I don't have to learn Swift or Kotlin, Android, and all. So to develop individual native apps, this allows me to do that. So when I'm working with Xamarin, maybe if I'm developing my first app, I could actually write about it and share my experience of how I got into it. And um, I know recently, so I was working in a couple of hackathons and I experimented a little with different technologies. I tried to implement Azure's AI capabilities into my app and so on. So I think for those, when I searched around, I didn't find resources which could help me directly understand how. So that is something I am working on. In fact, right now I'm writing on that so that maybe someone else can learn from my experiences and use that in their projects. So that's something that technical content writing is talking about, your experience with tech and how you got through that. That would essentially be the basic idea.
So yeah, do you have any tips for someone who wanted to start technical writing?
Yeah, if you really want to get into technical content writing, Even if you're working on something basic, just write about it. Sometimes we feel that our content is not advanced enough to be shared. There is nothing like that. Even if it's basic, even if it's about a cause that you've been working on, just write and share. Don't worry about, because everyone who's learning is going to have a slightly different experience. It's never the exact same experience for two people. So write as much as you can, share as much as you can. And if you're getting into technical content writing, particularly if it's coding specific, dev.to is a great platform. If it's not coding specific, it's if it's more around career or community or that sort of stuff, you can definitely use Medium or LinkedIn articles. Both of those are great places to share.
Yeah, so now coming back to the topic of the webinar again, the real impact of students in the tech communities.
Sorry.
The real impact of students in the tech communities.
So when I talk about impact particularly, I think with students, since students are still at a stage where we're developing, if we are the ones who are sharing, a lot of times peers do tend to listen to us as well if we're in good places. So students can actually reach out to more and more students, rather than maybe just faculty or someone who they call from outside. I think I have noticed this at times that students do listen to other students a lot as well, especially if those students are in positions of responsibility or who are actively working in communities, because it is a very it's a kind of an exposure in its own place as well. And I know for a fact, so if I stay active in communities, I learn something and I take that back to students of my college, they do listen, they do maybe learn, and they try out and experiment as well. And what happens after that is, if I am doing a good deed, someone else sees, learns from that, and does a good deed. You're creating that kind of a chain where more and more people are sharing and creating a healthy environment. And that is a huge, huge impact of student communities.
Right. So I guess I'm done with all my questions. You can go ahead and share anything else.
Yeah, I'd love to see if there's stuff coming up in the live comments. If you could just check that once.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
I questions. So
I
that
think we had some
question
people
from
messaging.
uh, Usman Aslam. Would you like to take the question?
Tell us your secrets behind aggressive marketing. Okay, aggressive marketing is something I used to do a lot more earlier. I have not as much in the recent times for good reason. And I don't recommend aggressive marketing for community initiatives anymore. And that is because when you're aggressively marketing, if you overdo it, that does create a negative sense around that as well, since developers don't always enjoy that. That I can say from experience. I won't say this is for every single place. I think this is something that I have noticed. And so I don't always recommend aggressive marketing. Just really focus on the value of what you're trying to share. And if it's valuable enough, people will join in.
All right. So if I can know right now, how many tech communities are you a part of?
Okay, so the I can talk about programs that I'm part of. We've got the Microsoft Learning Student Ambassador.
Okay.
We've got the DSC. I am
Okay.
a member of the I Am Remarkable program by Google. Oh, that's also a really good program. That's something that all of you should check out.
I
I'm
haven't heard
involved
about
with.
it. You can
Okay,
give.
so the I Am Remarkable program is essentially a program which was started by certain Googlers, and it is
Okay.
supported by Google right now. So the idea behind this is to help uplift women and underrepresented groups within the tech world. And it really started off specifically with women, but since then it's grown on to a much, much larger phenomena.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I think it's been personally very beneficial for me, because my first experience with this program was as an attendee of a workshop.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think it does a lot to help you be proud of yourself, help you battle imposter syndrome. So it's a program that's really great. It helps me help those with whom I think it really focuses a lot on mental health, and that's something really good. So that's something that people should definitely check out, and I will share that link as well. So other than that, I'm a member with various communities. I stay active with a few hackathon communities. We started off a couple from one of our hackathons that we worked on, and that's been growing to a lot larger extent. And Progates, I do stay active with Progates community as well. So with Progate, we've got the plus users as well who subscribe to the platform and pay for that. So for those users, we have a separate mentorship program where I stay active right now as a mentor as well. So I think
Okay,
that would be most of what I stay active with. Yeah.
that is really great. So, how do you manage time for all these things apart from studying?
Okay, so I think one thing that a lot of people don't always realize is that community work is not an obligation. It's good to do it, it's not an obligation. So in some cases, some of my work overlaps. So if I'm working on a hackathon, some of that might overlap with my DSC, some of that might overlap with my Microsoft ambassador work. And that's one aspect of it. If I'm really invested on one program at a time, maybe then I'll keep a little bit of a pause on another so that I don't overburden myself because we're all students, we've got academic work as well. At the end of the day,
Right.
we've got our projects as well. We have to focus on internship applications, we have to focus on placement applications for those in third and fourth year. So um, it's really important, if you think it's getting a bit too much for you, just stop, take a break. It's perfectly all right to do that.
Okay. So, yes. So, whoever is watching it, do you guys have any questions? You can put up in the
Yeah,
chat box.
ask away.
Yeah.
It can. I mean, even if it's something personally from my experience, if it's something general, both of those are all right. So you can just go ahead. Till then, I think I'll scroll up once and see if there was any other mention as well.
Okay.
I have to say we've got some very, very influential members from the Indian tech communities as well. So big shout out to all of those who've joined in. Faizan, Ali, Anush, Rishit, all of these people, Dhruv, all fantastic student tech community members from India. They're doing a lot of work, and I'm really thankful because I learned so much from all of these people. So it's really great to see them all around.
Definitely. Yeah. Thank you for joining today, all of you.
Yeah.
So, yes, do you guys have any questions? You can go ahead and put it in the chat box.
Until then, another thing we can do is maybe we can share the
Yeah,
links
the
of the
link.
student different. Yeah. So
So, yes, you can check out this docs for knowing about all the tech community programs.
and maybe if you can just put it up on the screen one so that people know it's been shared.
Yes,
Um, So with the doc link that's been shared, it essentially contains the details of various different programs that you can check out. So it has links essentially that can connect you to the Microsoft Student Ambassadors program. We've got the DSC official site link, Intel student ambassadors, MLH coaches. We've got Alex and AWS's programs, Dev Circles by Facebook, GitHub Campus Expert, OnePlus, all of these different programs. And it does also contain the link for the Progate community intern. So you can check it out as well. And I think the second link that's been put up, which is the bit.ly, the Progate intern, that's my Progate intern experience. So it contains all the highlights of my experience, what I learned from that, and you can definitely check it out as well.
so yeah, the last one is Aditya Oberai.
Oh no, I think that's the
Yeah.
wrong. So just take that down once. I'll just share my LinkedIn.
Okay, just a minute.
Yeah. So I've shared my LinkedIn and Twitter. with the team. So my LinkedIn has been shared in the chat, and you can just connect with me at any point of time. And if you're connecting, if you're already connected, fantastic. You can then just directly message. If you're not, while connecting, just add a message that you connected through this particular event, so that way I'll connect a lot quicker, because otherwise there's a lot of pending requests and sometimes they just get missed at times, and I don't want that to happen. So just send over a connection request, and in the private message mention that you connected from the Girl Up event. Otherwise, my Twitter DMs are open. You can definitely message from there as well. That works perfectly well too.
So yes, that's it. I guess the session will be a turning point for all of you to go and register for all these communities. So yes, if you have any doubts in the process or regarding these tech communities, you can always revert back to Aditya Oberai. He will be glad to help you guys.
Anytime.
Yeah. So thank
Those
you
are
for
great places.
joining
Yeah.
today.
Just message anytime. And even if it's not purely tech communities, general advice, anything around hackathons, if you got anything around hackathons, message me anytime. That's great. And if you do, there's gonna be some other communities that I can connect you with as well, maybe. So I'll try to do that wherever I can.
Definitely. So I guess that's it. Thank you all of you for joining us today. I guess it had put something for you and added some value in your life. So thank you, Aditya Oberai, for joining us in the series of tech webinars conducted by Gallup She United today. And yeah, thank you all of you. Bye
All
bye.
right. Bye bye.